Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so thrilled to have as my guest today the wonderful Nicole Beasley. Nicole is a licensed clinical psychologist with an undergraduate degree in psychology from Stanford University and a master's and doctorate in clinical psychology from UC Berkeley. She has extensive experience working with couples, as well as advanced training and certification in the most highly researched models of couples therapy. Nicole enjoys helping couples rediscover intimacy by bringing awareness to the patterns of thought and behavior that block connection. Seeing clearly, couples are able to shift out of reactive self-protection into insightful, wise, loving action towards self and others. Welcome, Nicole. So glad to have you here today.
So happy to be with you.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I've been good.
Yeah.
It's been an up and down, bumpy road as life usually is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been good. How about you?
Great. Really good too. Same thing, up and down, but thank goodness navigating it really well. So I know that, well, first of all, I want to know a little bit about your history and what got you into the field of psychology.
That's what got me into the field of psychology is a big question. I guess since I was a little person, I always was interested in the inside of the mind. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to understand how the unspoken, I kind of wanted to get into the unspoken with people. And so psychology was an easy and natural fit. And at some point, it didn't feel like a big enough space. Mm-hmm. Because there are stories in psychology that kind of reify the problem, as in the problem is the idea that there's something wrong. And so I started to find, wait, we're saying there's nothing wrong, and yet all these theories are about something being wrong. Mm-hmm. And so then I met my first teacher, who was a Zen Buddhist monk, and she said, there is nothing wrong. And she knew that at this very, very profound, deep, visceral level. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to study with you.
Yeah.
I need to learn what you know. So
that's beautiful. I think that is the most healing thing in the world is to know there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, to really know that, no matter what the thought is. And to have the experience of being held by what knows beyond thought that there is nothing wrong is such a grace. It's a grace when that experience arrives, because we can't make it happen. But it's so important for waking up, or you could say healing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you talk a lot on your website about self-acceptance. For me, I feel that is probably at the core of any of our issues is the rejection of the self, the belief that there's something fundamentally flawed or wrong with who we are. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, Del, as you're saying that, I think that's the nature of the ego. Mm-hmm. That the ego is so invested in us picking up the thought that there's something wrong, there's something wrong, there's something wrong. And so innocently, we get caught there. And to really reside in acceptance, and this is like such a profound, that which accepts even the non-accepting is the great healer. That which accepts even the ego and all of its resistance and judging. And that's the place we want to notice, because it's always there. The noisy mind can cover it over, and yet it still exists. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing, that there's nothing in form that can destroy that. So that's, for me, it's been very helpful to sit with teachers who are more deeply rooted there than me, to help me begin to notice, oh, yeah, that place. And I think Sid often taught this way. He taught, from my perspective, through the experience of his own awake, through the feeling of his own awake more than the words.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he would say constantly. Don't listen to my words, listen for the feeling. You know, we can get
and that
so
feeling of love.
Yeah, love and unity. It's so many years ago, I was in therapy for many years myself, and I think one of the most healing things I ever did was do some work with a woman called Debbie Ford. I trained as a coach with her, and it was all about sort of the shadow, just reintegrating the disowned aspects of ourself. And for me, that was, you know, it was just, I don't know, for me it worked better than anything. I had so many areas in my own life that I had decided were unacceptable or should stay hidden. And when I learned to just embrace my humanity and just realize, you know, we're all the same. We're all made of the same stuff. So, you know, there's no one person more damaged or broken or not entitled to be on this planet than another.
That's really, when you say that, what comes to my mind is it's such the opposite of a spiritual bypass, what you're describing, because it's like that which really loves everything that's arising into form. There isn't anything there that's being resisted, not even resistance itself. And that shadow work, it's like, I was sitting today with a teacher, and I saw so clearly how what is here is just arising to be met in love. That wide open space that loves everything as it is. And all this stuff is just going to rise up to be loved. And then it's like a bubble, it pops, it passes away on its own. And when I sit, you know, looking at my own mind, there is so much egoic thinking that says, no, this is the arrival. The arrival looks like happiness, peace, you know, all these kinds of ideas. Instead of the arrival is just the meeting, the place, that loving place that meets everything as it is.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and you know, this pursuit of inner peace, like it's something out there, where and I was very aware. I was thinking, you know, there is so much upset being caused within in this belief that inner peace is something to acquire, whereas if you were just in acceptance of what is, then naturally
it's very peaceful.
That's where your inner peace is. For me.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true for you, but there are moments when I feel very, very unpeaceful. You know, I feel a tremendous, I guess I'm residing in the one who doesn't remember the experience of peace, you know, so she's, right? And it's like, oh, just being with that and just allowing that to be there. Then there's a noticing she's in this pool of peace. And to me, when I say love, that's what I mean. That pool of peace is so unconditioned.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely me too, because I don't always reside in that. We all get caught up. We all forget.
And isn't that an amazing thing that that's the arrival?
It is
the arrival.
I'm finding more and more, though, that there is an observer. Even when I'm caught up, I'm more aware of the observer watching this human part of me getting caught up. I never fully believe the drama anymore. You know?
Yeah, that's an amazing grace too, Del. To me, that's like the water has smoothed the stones so much that now you're identified with the one who's watching more than you're identified with what it is watching.
Yeah.
And that happened to you. You didn't make that happen. It wasn't an effort. It was an unfolding, coming in a way from beyond form.
Yeah.
Like the ripening of a seed.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And I even, I'm aware of just again allowing myself to have that experience. There's no rush, there's no judgment, there's no, well, you should know better, or it's you're caught up long enough, maybe you should let it go now. It's just the total acceptance of it will pass when it's ready to pass.
Yeah, I
Effortless.
really didn't have that when I learned the principles. When I learned the principles, I had an idea that the learning of them would take me to the top of the mountain. And the top of the mountain looked like a golden Buddha sitting completely in the sun. And so that thinking, like the arrival looks this way, was so painful because there was such resistance to actually, learning the principles is understanding the what. Like this is how the formless takes form. This is how we experience the formless arising into form. It's just a description of how things work, or the what.
Exactly.
Rather than like, oh, a particular experience my ego really wants me to have is now going to happen.
Now I know I had that misunderstanding too initially. It was that I thought that I wasn't going to get caught up anymore, or if I did get caught up, it wasn't good. And then as my understanding deepened, I'm like, I really, really get that it's all okay. Whatever you're going through is okay. And just to understand where your experience is coming from, but not to have this expectation that experience should be any different.
Yeah.
So, I know, and it's also, there's a few things in the principles I think that can be sort of, you can get caught up in. I also see this sort of search for insights. It's like that's the sort of the goodie. And again, I don't know if I'm so grateful because I've never felt the need to have an insight or to find one or to to me it's just they come when they come, and they're probably more likely to come when I'm not looking for one or not expecting one. And just to be again in that space of just allowing and just being. I think we very innocently get caught up in thinking there's always something better to strive for or to gain, isn't it? It's just
that is the nature of my ego.
Yeah,
it's constantly making comparisons between what is here now and what should be here now, and that gap is so much suffering.
Yeah, and
except then when we see, it's like, oh, that's the illusion. What is here now is like the whole pie.
Yeah. Good, bad, and ugly. But it's true, and I think especially on a spiritual path, there can be that temptation. Well, it certainly was for me before the principles. I was on a path for many years, seeking, trying to understand, trying to find peace, trying to sort of all these things, and then there can be this sort of sneaky element of shame in if you've been doing it for so long and you haven't achieved this sort of level of, spiritual standard that can sometimes be out there. I mean, it's all made up. We're all making it up, but some of us buy into it.
Yeah.
And I'm buying in less and less now, thank goodness.
That's a beautiful... it's a beautiful place to arrive where what the ego says starts to look like the illusion instead of the reverse. And so it's like, but I agree with you. It's hard to shift into the thinking that it's like, oh, the arrival is the feeling broken, the feeling scared, the feeling afraid. Well, that's the same thing. The feeling angry. It's just the feeling happy, the feeling peaceful. It's all the arrival. And to really get that at deeper levels is so much bigger than, of course, it's a thought, but it's mind's thought. It's like residing in the thought of mind that's what sees this.
I know that you're going slightly off track here, but I know you work an awful lot with couples, and you are doing a retreat with your partner, Jack Pransky, and
Yeah.
Laurie Carpenter. So, give me a little flavor of what it is that this retreat is going to offer, and what you are going to be providing for the couples that come there.
I'm really, really excited about this. So it'll be exciting to teach this with Jack because we've been learning about everything we're teaching through the experience of our connection. And that's a really important thing because, so let me just start with the foundation. The foundation of a relationship is really my relationship with myself.
Absolutely.
Now, when I've heard that before, and a younger person, I would be like, until I love myself, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not really talking about that. And what I'm really talking about is wherever you are is the perfect place for you to be. And it's really good to close your eyes and get quiet and see where you are. As in, is mind choosing your connection? Or are you in your connection out of fear? What is your deepest, authentic, and the principles we would call it, mind? Where is mind in your choice to be in that partnership in the first place? Now, just that piece of work is such a sacred, that could be the work you do in a couple, getting clear about, where you're creating from.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're going to start, which is like really asking people to get quiet and clear and notice, do you hear mind? And people might say this, my clients might talk about it like, what do I really believe in? What are my values? What does my authentic knowing say? People can get really sidetracked so they can enter into a relationship because they don't want to be alone.
Absolutely.
Or all kinds of reasons that come from fear. And so just starting there and giving space for people to see what's true for them, rather than this idea, you should be in this relationship because this is where you are and you can make it work no matter what. That doesn't ring true for me. So the first thing I do when I sit with couples is I'm listening. What is the deepest part of you want here? And what is self-love calling for? When we sort that out, that can take some time.
So that's the foundation, because I talked to Laurie about this already. So it's for all couples. I mean, whether you're in crisis or or just looking to deepen your relationship. So so that's a beautiful
Absolutely.
place.
Yeah. So people might come in and they're certain they're with the right person and they don't have anything to work out there, or they're certain they're with the right person, but there's so much pain. Or they're not sure anymore. And so any of those things are completely fine. Wherever people are, they can come in through that door. But what I'm really saying is we start with a learning how to deeply listen to the self.
Yeah.
And then there's a learning how to deeply listen to the other. And so deep listening, and I know you and I did that in Peru, that learning how to listen to another person with nothing on your mind, so you're hearing so far beyond what they're saying. You're really taking that person in without all your filters getting in the way. That is hugely helpful for both being authentic to yourself, but making space for another person to be who they are.
Yeah.
And navigating, what do we really want to co-create? How does that land for you? Is that making sense?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just thinking what a beautiful, I mean, it's I mean, how can you truly listen to another person if you have, the busy mind or the fearful thinking, or, so to get settled within yourself, to really connect with that, we call it wisdom, or your essence, or whether it's, like you say, the choice is coming from mind as opposed to the chatter, the fear, the ego, all of that. So that I think that sounds beautiful. It sounds like the perfect foundation before any other work is done.
Mm-hmm. And I would say it's okay if what you find is I'm lost in fear and I'm making choices out of fear and I don't know what my authentic self really feels.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's okay. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we start. Like, our tether to what is authentic and connected to spirit is how I would say it. In the principles, we might say connected to that which gives rise to everything that's here, wisdom. Mm-hmm. Your connection to wisdom is never broken. So we would start with, I don't know how to find that. That's okay. It's still here. Yeah. Then we just listen for clearing that out of the way. So that authenticity, that truth, and then the deep listening, both those are going to be really important on the retreat. And then there is something that Jack and I really have had to learn a lot about, because the ego enters a relationship with an agenda. And, we all bring our conditioning, everything, that happened to us from the past. We bring those thoughts to connection. Now, if we're really awake, maybe those thoughts don't catch us as much. Maybe we're really awake and those thoughts catch us and we see how they catch us. Maybe we're asleep and we have no idea that thinking is even going on. Mm-hmm. It's all fine. But the ego is invested in having what it wants the way it wants.
I want what I want right now.
Yeah. And it's really a fear-based system. Mm-hmm. So learning how to bring the fearful parts together and also be very much love to them.
Yeah.
That's like what we began with. Like, there's no shame in being afraid. There's no shame in being right where you are. So we bring like this open pool of love to the fearful parts. Then we listen. And from deep listening, there's like this magic that in the principles, they would often talk, when I was learning the principles, they'd talk about bringing businesses together. And they'd have these really complicated problems that nobody could solve. And then their minds would quiet and they'd have an insight. Mm-hmm. That happens in a couple also when we stop fighting for our lives and we start to be like this beautiful cup with each other, holding the fear together. Then out of that can arise a knowing about something that would hold us both at the same time. So we're really going to look in the direction of doing that with couples because it's the antidote to the power struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. That vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That authenticity, just sharing yourself exactly where you're at in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing how much courage it takes to do that.
Yeah. I found myself in my own relationship, again, thank God for the principles, because he doesn't change at all. He's solid as a rock, just the most loving, incredible, giving human being. Wow. And I started seeing myself getting bitchy, like, and I knew enough to know that it was me, not him, because he was just the same person. And I was like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. Couldn't even be aware of my thinking that why I was feeling the way I was. It was so unconscious to me. But I was aware that I was feeling trapped because the dynamic had changed in that his house burnt down in the fires last year. So he's been staying with me and, like I said, loving, helpful, amazing, everything. But somewhere inside of me, I was having that tape of I didn't have a choice. This happened, and then all of this, just one day, it just popped, and I was like, oh my God, that's what's going on. And I shared it with him, and it was gone. And all the angst and the irritation I was feeling just dissipated completely. It was just gone, because I saw it for what it was. But I couldn't have seen it if I went looking for it, because nowhere in my conscious awareness did I understand what was going on. But as soon as I felt it, I was like, oh my God, that's what's going on. And then as soon as it was given a voice and it was spoken about, and it just dissipated, and the relationship went completely back to what it has always been, which is just beautiful and harmonious and loving.
So, Del, I have a question about that. When you saw this part that was feeling trapped, was there judgment in the seeing?
Oh no, there was relief. There was like, oh, I see that. Oh yeah, no, I'm very gentle with myself.
Yeah.
No, there was just like, oh my God, that's where it was.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the way that I'm seeing that more and more is that there are these, you could say, narratives, thought patterns, or stories that are kind of stuck there, and they just want to be received.
Yeah.
The moment that you heard it, the moment you listened and you took it in, it was received. It was in the lap. And then it could just let go.
Yeah.
Now, if you would resist it or judge it, then it keeps coming like, come on, come on.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful, to help couples see, like, whatever's there, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're just going to make space for you to let it be. And then we'll look at it, and then we'll see what happens.
That's one of the phrases in the principles I love, psychological innocence, because it was innocent. It was completely, something was, stirred up from a past memory or behavior or a learnt thing, and it just so innocently was playing in the background. But no, it's so lovely when we get to see that. And again, it goes back to what we started the show about, which is the self-acceptance. It's just like, oh, that's a part of me that was playing. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think when we have ideas like, well, I shouldn't be this person, I should be more loving, I should be more accepting, I shouldn't have a desire to, because if it had persisted and it's like, I actually don't want to share my space and I don't feel good about that, the judgment of that would actually keep that going.
Yeah.
And just coming into like, it's okay if it's not judged. There can be these beautiful creative solutions, and the intimacy. When Jack shares something with me that he's afraid I can't handle, which sometimes I don't handle things well. I'm not saying
like all of us,
well, right? I know. So, but when he brings it to me, there is such a sense of like, it's us. It's us at the table. We're best friends. Now we get to try to love all these things at the table together. And I think sometimes we try to protect ourselves, and then we go into hiding, and then that's like, oh, not so good.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a wonderful workshop. I'm very, very excited. I wish I was going, but I have other plans already. I'm on the other side of the world, but it's tell us the dates again when it's happening.
December 7th through the 13th are the dates. And and so we are excited about it too. Very much. I'm excited to teach with Lori. I've never taught with her before. And
well, you did have that one day in Peru when Jack wasn't on the flight. So you've had a little introduction. Well, it's been lovely. We're actually at the end of the show, and it's been lovely seeing you again.
You too. I've loved talking with you.
Oh, and you. Great. Same here. And give my love to Jack.
I will.
And
I hope you see him in Spain.
Oh, that's right. I will. I'll see him at Viva.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I'll tell him.
Okay, great. All right, then. Well, take care. It's been lovely chatting with you.
You too. So many blessings.
And you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.